It's good to see everyone today. My name is Denise Williams, and I'm from Goodman Marketing Partners and also on the BMA board. I will tell you that one size fits all is a good thing when you have one mic and you have tall people and short people. So thanks, Godfrey. Let's keep this rolling. Our next speaker is a writer and B2B content marketing strategist who specializes in social media. He's the author of 5 books and more than 300 articles on the topic of social media and digital marketing. His award-winning book, The New Influencers, was one of the first to document the disruptive power of individual online voices. Since then, he's traveled the world helping organizations understand and use social media to build brands and strengthen customer relationships. As a technology journalist for 23 years, he was the founding editor-in-chief of B2B technology publisher TechTarget, and editor-in-chief and executive editor of Computer World. He's a senior research fellow and director at the Society for New Communications Research, member of the Procter & Gamble Digital Advisory Board, and is a popular blogger. So join me in welcoming Paul Gillin.
Thank you, Denise. I love going on at 2:45. I want to thank Godfrey for actually having this conference on time. I think it's the first time I've ever been to a conference where I spoke mid-afternoon and I wasn't told, you don't mind compressing your 45-minute presentation to 10 minutes, do you? So this is great. It's really a very well-run event. I noticed in my bio in the book, it says that I'm a social media expert. And I was reminded of a quote by my friend Jay Baer, who says, if someone else calls you an expert, you're an expert. If you call yourself an expert, you're an asshole. So you'll never hear me use that term. I'm going to talk, these have been great presentations. Fortunately, previous speakers have already done about 10 minutes of my presentation, which is great, because I can fly through that and get to all the other stuff I want to talk about. My presentation is going to be a little more tactical than what you've heard so far. We're going to talk about writing, because writing is something that I'm very passionate about. It's my profession, it's also my passion, and it's something that is done very, very badly these days for a lot of reasons. And it's done particularly, I think, in B2B marketing situations. There's a lot of help that's needed on the writing front. So I'm going to try to give you some tips, some pointers, some how-tos that hopefully will help juice up your writing a little bit. This is one of the many slides I'm sure you've seen like this, infographics, 60 seconds on the internet, 700,000 search queries, 60 new blog posts, 13,000 iPhone applications, yada, yada, yada. The most amazing one, 108 hours of video uploaded to YouTube every single minute. We are drowning in information, and there's a very different situation for us. Newspapers, remember newspapers? Newspapers were created to solve a problem that humans have confronted for thousands of years, which is we didn't have enough information. But now, and as little as 10 years ago, that was still a problem that was being solved. Now we have exactly the opposite problem. We are swimming in information. We are drowning in information. And yet we continue to churn out more and more information. And our challenge as marketers is, how do you find something? How do you find angles? How do you find a voice that's going to resonate with an audience that is simply overwhelmed? Microsoft did a study last year. They said that the average internet user has an 8-second attention span. And that is 1 second less than the average attention span of a goldfish. So we're dealing with a very distracted audience here, and we need to cut through the noise. Now, at the very least, what I'm going to try to help you do today is to stop doing this. The fact that we can post now information to multiple social networks at the same time doesn't mean we should. The fact that you can publish doesn't mean that you should publish. The fact that no one is editing you doesn't mean that you don't need an editor. So when you go to LinkedIn and you go in the groups and you see tweets posted as headlines in LinkedIn group discussions, don't do this anymore. You're wasting people's time and you're looking like a fool. So at the very least, stop using these cross-platform tools to publish tweets to every conceivable platform on the planet. You're insulting your readers when you do this. So that's one thing you can stop. As B2B marketers, we fail to communicate. Remarkable study out of McKinsey 2 years ago. They interviewed or surveyed 700 executive-level B2B buyers about what matters most to them, which is the green bars in deciding what companies to do business with. Then they analyze the social media marketing, or analyze the content marketing profiles of the 50 largest B2B companies in the world. Those are the red bars. What you see is, except for one place, there is a complete disconnect between what buyers want and what B2B companies are delivering. The main reason for that, I believe, is that we are writing for our bosses. We're not writing for the customer. That's something you've heard time and time again today, is you have to think like the customer and write to the customer. The boss wants to hear about what great products you have and what a great company you are. The customers want to hear something completely different. One key finding of the survey, McKinsey said, honest and open dialogue, this is a quote from McKinsey, which customers considered most important, was one of the 3 themes not emphasized at all by 90% of the companies in our sample. So this disconnect, this was a very profound disconnect, and I thought, well, this study apparently didn't do much to change attitudes, because just 3 months ago, Forrester did its own study about B2B marketing, B2B content marketing, and they asked several hundred B2B buyers what they do with the collateral that they get from sales representatives. And they said that nearly 2/3 of them scan it and throw it away. And the 80% agreed that vendors give me too much material. So it's a $40 billion, content marketing is a $40 billion business in the US alone, and apparently an awful lot of it is being wasted. And I think it's being wasted because we dumb down our messages and we don't give people truly unique and memorable content. And that starts with having a distinct persona. So I'm going to give you 7 tips here for things that you can do to improve the quality of your written communication in the various channels that you may use. And the title of this is social media. I'll get to social media at the end, but I'm going to talk about writing in general as it applies to any platform that you're using. These days, chances are that's an electronic platform of some kind. Number 1, know your audience. You've heard this again and again during the course of the day. It's great that the other speakers have covered it, so I don't have to go into detail. But the important thing is, as I think this morning's speaker said, Rob, that buyers make decisions based on gut instinct, and they justify them with data. So we go at them with data, and then we expect them to respond to that. People don't respond to data. People are animals. Animals respond to emotions. We don't appeal to the emotional side of our buyer. So when you talk to buyers and you really get to understand what drives them, you understand that they are driven by motivations, fears, passions, goals. They're driven by personal aggrandizement. They're driven by professional advancement, achievement, feeling of status and importance. But we talk to them about numbers. We're missing the most important motivating factors behind the buy. This is one example of a psychographic profile you can use. This is an example I use, and the slides, by the way, are on SlideShare. I just tweeted up the link about 5 minutes ago. If you want to download this template, the psychographic profile of an enterprise CIO. These are some things that you can look at. Motivations. Recognition, organizational excellence, business success, professional advancement. Demotivations, impulsiveness, indecisiveness, details, disobedience, likes. They like technology, they hate delay, they hate politics. If you know your buyer at this level, it helps you to target your content better to hit those sweet spots, whether it be fear or whether it be opportunity. And fear is a very powerful motivator. So if you're playing to the fear instinct, understand what your buyers fear most. This is an example of a template that you can use to get at that information. When you think like a reader, at very basic level, think of, instead of our solution, reasons to buy, think of your problem, options to consider. Yes, it's okay to mention your competitors. It's okay to say that your competitor has a good product. Give people an unbiased, side-by-side comparison and let them decide. If you have a good product, you know what they're going to decide. Instead of why we're better, talk about why customers choose us. What's in it for us? Talk about what's in it for you. Testimonials should spotlight long-term customers. Soundbite testimonials don't work as well as in-depth case studies that really get at why people make decisions that they make. Item number 2, know yourself. We, as one of the fastest ways to become commoditized in communications is to have a bland personality. But we have bland personalities because we believe they're safe. Our companies don't like to be bold. I would encourage you to be bold. Twitter, for example, is all about personality. It's all about highlighting the multi-dimensions of the people who are there. I encourage your Twitter profile to talk not just about business, but about sports, about fashion, about healthcare, about anything else that motivates you, that gives your profile, whether it's you personally or your company, some dimensionality. When you create that Twitter profile, be sure to mention what you do outside of work, because that creates other touch points for people to find you. They may not care to connect with you because you make widgets, but they may connect with you because you love Major League Soccer. So include that dimension in your profile. Model other people. One of the most powerful ways to improve the quality of your writing is to model others whom you respect. So are you going to be helpful? Is your profile going to be funny, professorial? Are you going to be empathetic, snarky, unpredictable? Are you going to be Seth Godin, whose posts his blog posts rarely exceed 300 words? Or are you going to be Jeffrey Moore, who writes long, very detailed, intelligent, professorial content? Have a profile that is distinctive for you and stick to that profile. Be able to describe that profile to others, because when you can do that, then you will be distinctive to others. If you're all over the place, then no one is going to know what you're all about. People on Twitter don't follow professions. They follow people. Think of the people who you really like on Twitter, who you really look forward to seeing what they have to say. Chances are it's because they have a distinct personality that resonates with you. If your personality matches that, which is of what you believe your customers will respond to, then you're going to resonate with those customers at a deeper level. Number 3, read Cosmo. That's because Cosmo and all the women's magazines have been dealing with the same problem that you deal with for the last 40 years. And that is that they have to deal with an audience that is highly distracted. Their audience is standing in the checkout line at a supermarket, usually with a couple of screaming kids at their heels. They have 10 seconds to make an impression on that customer, to get them to buy that copy on the newsstand. They are very, very, very good at it. So read these magazines and look at some of the things they do to quickly grab the attention of their audience, and then think of how you can apply that to what you do. 5 things I'll point out, the Fantastic 5. It's all about you. Look at the table of contents of Redbook or Glamour, and you'll see the word you at least 20 times on each page of the table of contents, because they are talking to their audience. They are telling you how to make yourself better. That's what we should be doing. It works. That's how you relate to people at that gut level. Who do you want to be? When you look at the women's magazines, one thing you'll notice is there are no ugly people. Everybody in the women's magazines is beautiful, except for some of the men. There's good reasons for that. Why is everyone beautiful? Because they are modeling what their readers want to be. And they don't want to ever depict their readers as being anything less than what the readers aspire to. So even sick people in Cosmo are beautiful. They not only speak to their reader, they celebrate their reader. Works for us too. Celebrate the reader. It's all about what they want to be. Number 3, surprise and delight. Turn things around. Look at it from the other point of view. Instead of saying how to do something, say how to avoid screwing up, or how to do something badly. I'll give you more examples of how you can do this. How can I help? Fundamentally, these magazines are about helping you to be thinner, sexier, more beautiful, a better cook, a better professional, a better conversationalist. It's all about being better, better, better. Look at the front covers of these magazines, and the same themes apply again and again. And by the way, these magazines write the same articles every month. All of them write the same articles every month. And that, talk about a difficult task. They have to come up with new angles for fashion tips. They have to come up with 100 new angles for fashion tips every year, and they do it. We can learn from that as well. Tell stories. Almost every article you read in these magazines begins with a story. See, a little secret, most of the stories are made up. You know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The point is, you're bringing home, you've heard this from other speakers today, you heard that from Rob this morning. You are bringing home a message in a way that hits people in the gut, because we relate to stories, we don't relate to numbers. So, you look at the inside, look at the table of contents of Red Book, and this is what you see. You. And that is the same thing we should be talking. We should be using the word you whenever possible in our communications to our customers. Think different, to quote Steve Jobs. Think differently is the correct English, but think different worked for Apple. Vary up your approach. Use different media. Imagine how you might use, instead of writing the article, imagine how you might do it as a slide share, or as a video, or as a song. Imagine content in another form, such as a list, a table, a first-person narrative, a poem, a song, conversation, or an FAQ. Form can be just as much about variety as content. I'll show you an example in a second of that. Vary your voice. How would your message be communicated by your favorite humorist, novelist, or columnist? This is where modeling others is so good. If you have an author that you absolutely love, try writing in the voice of that person. It will make you distinctive. Try writing something. One of the toughest jobs I ever had when I was an editor at Computer World was my boss told me one day he wanted me to write the editorial that week as a limerick. Okay, it was really hard. It took me a long time to come up with a limerick about information technology, but managed to do it, and it was very satisfying when it got done. Right from a diametrically opposite point of view. This is what columnists do. Columnists love to do this. They love to set themselves up, taking the complete opposite point of view of conventional wisdom, and try to make an argument for that point of view. It's a great exercise to inject into your writing. Vary perspective. How might you write this as an inanimate object? How would a visitor from space see it? How would someone from 100 years ago see it? Whether or not you write in that, the final product is written from that perspective, simply looking at it from that perspective will give you ideas. Now, this is an example of 20 different ways to tackle a topic. I know it's a dense slide, you can download it. I'm going to go through it quickly. The point of this is you should never run out of ideas. I hear this all the time. We don't have enough good ideas. You should. Because if you come at the same topic, you can come even at a topic that everybody else in the world is talking about. If you come at it from a different perspective, you can still create something distinctive. The topic here is online privacy. 20 ways you can approach it. Quiz, test your privacy IQ. Skeptic, you don't control your privacy. Explainer, the privacy debate in plain English. Case study, how one person got control over privacy. Contrarian, why privacy concerns are rubbish. Definitional, explain common privacy terms. How to, 5 ways to strengthen your privacy. How not to, 5 ways to screw up your online privacy. Turn it around and look at it from the other perspective. First person, personal privacy horror story. List 10 important facts about online privacy. Comparison, how different services measure up. FAQ, your questions answered. Q&A, what one expert says. Data, roundup of what the experts are saying in surveys. Man on the street, what different people are saying around the office about online privacy. Outrageous, there's no such thing as online privacy. Poetic, haiku privacy. Musical, the ballad of online privacy. Historic, what Shakespeare would have said about online privacy. Or humorous, do it in the form of Abbott and Costello's Who's on First routine. That's just 20 I knocked out in a short time. You should never run out of ideas if you look at different angles. 3 best words I ever heard, the best advice I ever got in my life is these 3 words about writing, was these 3 words. Write in pictures. It was told to me by Bill Blundell, who was the former features editor for many years at the Wall Street Journal. And it's a very powerful concept when you think about it. Humans are inherently visual learners. 2/3 of us are primarily visual learners. When we use words that connote images, we can write much more efficiently and much more exciting and much more compelling prose. It involves thinking outside the box a little bit, not going with what's easy, but looking for words that have more energy and more variety to them. So instead of drop, use words like plunge, sink, cave in, tumble, slump, crash. Instead of rise, swell, balloon, soar, climb, elevate. Instead of tell, whisper, confide, intimate, shout, echo, cry out. Read the Wall Street Journal features and you'll see this tactic used all the time. And the reason is that it saves on space. It's very compact. Because when you use good verbs, you use fewer adverbs. We use too many goddamn adverbs. If you're going to tighten up your writing, start by getting rid of all the adverbs. Really, very, usually, substantially, incredibly. Don't ever use those words again. You don't need them. If you're using the right verb, you don't need words like that. So start with these. What do these words do? They conjure up pictures. We can think of, I can't think of rise. I can think of swell. I can think of balloon. These are more memorable words because they are associated with pictures. I did a little exercise. I took a case study from a technology company. It's a real case study, and I rewrote it. Now, this case study is very typical of what you see. Features, this is about a zoo using IT. Features such as smartphone notification and mature drill-through capabilities give the zoo quick access to key information. Through smartphone alerts, management can notify staff when VIP guests arrive at the zoo, or automatically send customized notifications to zoo members to make them aware of special promotions and events for them. The end result is a smarter operation and a more enjoyable experience for visitors. There's no people in that passage, right? Zoos are all about people and animals. There's no people or animals there. It's all about, it's written in passive voice, it's soft, and it's unspecific. Now you can take the same passage, you can rewrite it using active voice, using pictures, using people terms, and what you come up with is, now the zoo can spot treasure guests early and give them the red carpet treatment. Pictures. Staffers' smartphones buzz. Alliteration, it's wonderful. Onomatopoeia. Buzz when VIP guests arrive at the ticket window, enabling zookeepers to scramble to greet them. Guests can even program their phones to call out news of feeding time at the monkey house or a discount on t-shirts, result of smarter operation and more smiles on visitors' faces. It's shorter, it's more active, and it's more memorable. And it's more vibrant. For one thing, it's written in active voice. Stop using passive voice. Use subject and predicate. It's shorter, it's faster, and it's more fun to read. Get to the friggin' point. I'm a product of the American education system, as I imagine are some of you. And when I was in school, I had it drilled into my head from a very early age that length equated to gravity. That the longer the term paper, the more important it was. So the 10-page paper was responsible for 50% of my grade and the 3-page paper for 10% of my grade. Now the intent of this was to entice us to do more in-depth research, to explain in greater detail, to provide more analysis and value. What did it teach us? To pad. It taught us how to use more words to say the same thing. And these days, of course, we can't play with margins anymore, so all we have to work with is words. The web has been the greatest thing and the worst thing that's ever happened to writing. It's been a great thing because anybody can now have a global audience for what they think, and that's fantastic. The worst thing is the web is bottomless. It is a bottomless slag heap into which we dump words. There are no length limits on the web. Start with creating length limits. I liked it when Godfrey sent their blogging guidelines out and they said 300 to 600 words. That's good. No more than 600 words. And when you say it, stick to it. The shorter, you should be rewarding people for writing shorter rather than writing longer. You should be taking out the junk. I used to write a column, I wrote a column for B2B magazine. For 7 years, I wrote a monthly column for B2B magazine. It was one of the hardest writing jobs I had, and also was some of the best work I produced. Why? I had 450 words. I had to introduce a topic, develop it, leave some sort of memorable point, and conclude in 450 words. It's not easy to do. You have to really think that through. You will be so much better a writer with a length limit than you will be if someone says, here, just post something. Get to the point. Start by dumping the gobbledygook. Is your product innovative, leading, committed, cost-effective, next-generation, flexible, robust, high-performance, scalable, user-friendly, easy-to-use, optimized, best-in-class, world-class, industry-leading, dedicated, customer-focused, strategic, successful, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Those words all have one thing in common. They are meaningless. They mean nothing. Where did I get this list? I got this list by going through my email and picking out just 4 press releases that I had received from technology marketers. 4 press releases generated this list. And I didn't have to stop there. Don't do them anymore. Put these words on your prohibited list. When you are looking at the content that you are sharing, and especially on Twitter, where words are precious, look for words like these that don't mean anything. But the Wall Street Journal, one of the reasons the Wall Street Journal is one of the best written publications in the world is because they spend most of their time in the editing process taking words out. And it's not because they're limited by space anymore. It's because they know that if you can say something in 10 words instead of 15, it's kinder to the reader, it's easier to read, it's probably more memorable as well. That's why you won't see words like this in the Wall Street Journal. Shouldn't see them in your writing either. This is an actual quote from a press release. The tremendous growth trajectory, see if you can find a single fact or anything memorable in this. The tremendous growth trajectory of the Internet of Things, coupled with the massive demand for real-time interaction on mobile and the web, represents an incredible market opportunity, said the CEO of some company I don't remember. We are thrilled to be working with this extraordinary group of investors who have deep expertise in a broad range of industries. They have deep expertise in a broad range of industries? Wow. You don't see that very often. Unfortunately, you see quotes like this all the time. Look through press releases. Maybe some of the press releases your company writes, you'll find quotes like this all the time. Why do we need 100 words to say nothing? Why can't this executive be thought, I'm sure the executive didn't actually say this, but why can't this executive be coached to say one actually meaningful thing in the space that is going to have quote marks around it? Don't do it anymore. Third, red flags. Look for words in stories. How many blogs have you read that have that tell you stuff you already know, and even worse, will tell you that they're telling you stuff you already know? So they open up by saying, everybody knows that big data is a huge opportunity for business. If everybody knows it, why are you telling me? Get rid of it. Everybody knows that. I don't have to tell you that. It's common knowledge that we've all seen. Conventional wisdom is, I think you'll be interested in, I'm thrilled that. I'm not interested in this. This is not helping me. Take words like this out and get to the point. That's the overall message I want to leave you with in this section. Take words out. Your writing will be so much better if you do it. And if you encourage your employees who are writing for you to do the same thing in all of their media, their blogs, their social networks, their white papers. And yes, you can take them out of white papers too. White papers don't have to be boring. Write for the platform. All right, I said this would be about social networks, and this is about writing for social networks. So a few tips for how to write for different social networks using some of the concepts I've discussed already. Remember that social networks have personalities. This is why cross-posting between social networks is so evil, because the people you are reaching on one social network need a very different message than your people you are reaching on others. Facebook is all about fun. It's a big nosh pit. It's a big after-hours party. Facebook is all about, LinkedIn, I'm sorry, is all about getting stuff done. It's all about business. The stuff that works on Facebook probably isn't going to work very well at all on LinkedIn. Twitter is all about news. It's all about lots of people talking at the same time. Twitter is about saying things in an unusual way or a memorable way so that others will retweet it. That's why quotes are so great to retweet on Twitter. Everything that's been retweeted that I've posted on Twitter today has been a quote from one of the speakers. Same message, 3 different media. This was from a speech by Seth Godin at the Inbound Marketing Conference. He said, a memorable quote, he said, meetings are people trying to figure out who will foolishly take responsibility for what happens next. Great quote. Put that on Twitter. You have to shorten it to fit it in the space you've got. You always want to add the username of the speaker, and you want a hashtag for the event so that others who are attending the event will see it. You're posting on LinkedIn, you don't need most of that stuff. You don't need the URL, for one thing, if you have a URL, because LinkedIn gets that automatically. You don't need hashtags because people don't really use hashtags on LinkedIn. Yeah, it works, but people don't really use them. And you don't need Twitter usernames. You have more characters to play with on LinkedIn, so you can write longer. And finally, you have the opportunity, because LinkedIn is a conversational medium, to ask a question. But the question you ask on LinkedIn is not the question you're going to ask on Facebook. So on LinkedIn, you might say, can you relate? Seth Godin at the Inbound Marketing Conference says millions of people sitting around trying to foolishly take advantage of responsibility for what happens next. Question, can you relate? Because people in a business context will relate to this. Posting it on Facebook, you're going to say something different because Facebook is flashy and fun. It's after hours. You're going to say, Seth Godin at the Inbound 13 Conference, meetings of people sitting around, what's your worst meeting experience? Note the question. The question is different on Facebook than it is on LinkedIn, because where people are having fun on Facebook, they're more likely to respond to that, what's your worst experience, than on LinkedIn. So think of the personality. Facebook is about surprising, provoking, and inquiring. It's being upbeat. It's having fun. It's a happy place. Do you know that? Facebook is real. I mean, if you look at the personas of successful B2B companies on Facebook, look at Intel, look at Dell, look at Cisco, look at UPS, look at FedEx, which, by the way, look at the comments on FedEx and UPS and any of the package delivery companies, and nearly all the comments are from furious customers. And these companies are better at handling angry customers and angry mobs than any companies I've ever seen. If you're ever dealing with negativity, take your cue from the package delivery companies, because they're in the business of performing miracles. And when you perform miracles for a living, you're going to screw up now and then. And people shout at you. They're very good at that. But their posts are always upbeat and fun, and they always provoke responses, because Facebook is a responsive medium. So they have images, because images get 80% better engagement on Facebook. They make images that are provocative or self-explanatory. They have contests, they have awards. They celebrate their customers. They love to tell stories about their customers. They love to challenge their customers. Tell us your best, your worst, your first, your most recent, the cheapest. They're always looking to provoke customers to do something interesting. Dell runs trivia contests about PC history, or asks people to solve riddles. That's the kind of stuff that works on Facebook. Have personality, be informal. Go to the Skittles account on Facebook, which is, I believe, is the largest, the most followed account on Facebook, and do what they do, because they're fantastic at it. And by the way, you probably shouldn't be on Facebook. But that's a different issue. LinkedIn is efficient. LinkedIn is about getting to the point. It's about generating leads, response, connections. It's a connective tissue. Share news about your business, industry strategy, the workplace. Offer practical advice. Make it clear, descriptive, and brief, because people don't have time. The average LinkedIn user spends less than 18 minutes a month on LinkedIn. That is by design. Okay, they spend 6 hours on Facebook. That is by design. LinkedIn doesn't want people spending a lot of time there, because you're there to get business done. Be aware of people's time. Get to the point, offer to connect. Ideal LinkedIn post in response to a question is to complement the question, answer the question, offer a link to further information, and then offer to connect. 4 parts to the ideal LinkedIn group discussion post, so that you're adding value, but you're also generating the opportunity for a discussion, for a connection. And by the way, when you post a question in a LinkedIn discussion group, every response you get should be a lead. Those questions should be formulated to generate leads for you. Twitter is about 140 characters. It's about being brief. Certain things you need to do on Twitter that you don't do on other social networks. Add value when you retweet. Don't just hit RT. Hit RT and add a little comment of your own, so that your personality is added to the equation. Thank people when they mention you, when they compliment you, when they retweet you. Send them a little thank you. Great way to generate followers. Recognize people who have said remarkable things that week, or who have mentioned you, or who you like for some reason or another. Twitter is an amazingly courteous medium. For all the trash that gets talked about over Twitter storms and Twitter trash talking, Twitter is actually very courteous. There's a lot of people complimenting and mentioning each other, because a mention is a sort of form of endorsement. Tease but don't deceive. Always tell people what they're going to get. If they're expecting to get an article and you're going to give them an 18-minute video, let them know it's a video. Don't waste their time. Advance the conversation by building upon what other people have said whenever you retweet or share. And label whenever possible. If it's a video, say it's a video. If it's a podcast, say it's a podcast. Be conscious of people's time. Be aware of space. Twitter, you have 140 characters. LinkedIn, you have 2,000. Facebook, you have 60,000 characters. Obviously, you can say a little bit more on Facebook than you can on the others. So it doesn't mean you should use them, but be aware that, this goes back to my first slide, reposting tweets on LinkedIn is dumb because you have more space, you can say more, and it just makes you look lazy when you do that. Good tweets. How to make images the right size for your Facebook cover page. It's a how-to. It has an attribution, by Azure Collier. Whenever possible, recognize the Twitter handle of the person you are referencing on Twitter. Label, tip. Label, video. Use, as Guy Kawasaki does, if you're going to give them a teaser head, meet the Nerd King, also give them a descriptive head, how to give the best convocation speech ever. You do not want to give people teaser headlines because when they click through and they find out that the content is not what they expected, they're going to blame you. So tell them what they're going to get. Recognize sources, via, who sent you that link that was so good. Use hashtags in moderation, no more than 3 or 4 in a Twitter message. Don't do this. Content that has no context, watching article commenters argue with each other. What are you talking about? There's no link. You're not giving me any descriptive information at all. Why are you wasting my time with this? Auto post, don't do that either. In the early days of Twitter, it's possible to set up your YouTube account. Every time you watched a video or posted a tweet, turn that off. You're just wasting people's time. There's too much stuff on Twitter already. Don't give people access to the Twitter account who shouldn't have it. The famous example of this, I find it ironic that Detroit is known as the Motor City and no one here knows how to expletive drive. Posted by an employee of the social media agency of Chrysler under the Chrysler account shortly after Chrysler launched a multi-million-dollar ad campaign celebrating the city of Detroit. Okay, really, really dumb. If the people with access to your corporate Twitter handle are party animals, take it away. You want responsible adults speaking on your behalf. Hashtag spam, help me save lives. Link, followed by 8 hashtags. What the hell is this person talking about? I love hashtags, but don't hit me over the head with them. And finally, if you're not a good speller, if you don't know good grammar, if English isn't your first language, find someone to help so you're not posting, thanks God is Friday. How many mistakes can you make in 4 words? Now, if that's under your own personal Twitter account, knock yourself out. If that's under a corporate account, you're going to look dumb. So spell checkers were invented for a reason. That's it for my prepared remarks. I believe we might have questions, might not.
I'm sort of afraid to send you an email now. Paul, can you tell us, how can we improve? Is there something out there that can help us to improve our writing skills as business people, as marketers? What would you suggest?
Well, my slide deck is right up. If you look on Twitter, I just posted my slide deck. It's got all of this content. I would recommend a book. I mentioned Bill Blundell earlier from the Wall Street Journal. He wrote a wonderful book called The Art and Science of Feature Writing. Bill Blundell, B-O-U-N-D-E-L-L. Get that book. It tells you how the Wall Street Journal does it. And it tells you in detail how they do it. It's not a long book, 230 pages, something like that. But that's something that will help you a lot. I mean, the main thing is I would have a person in your organization who is an acknowledged good writer. And I understand most people are not particularly good writers. Have people or a person or people designated who are pretty good and make sure that you're running stuff by them. And most importantly, when they are editing you, have them explain why they make edits. You know, because I'm a professional writer, I edit a lot of other people's stuff. So they send something to me, and I'll make a ton of edits to it, and I'll send it back to them, and they never say, why'd you do that? Right? You need to ask those questions. If someone changes what you said, understand why. Because if you agree with them, then you're probably going to want to take those ideas. So that's a couple of things you can do. But mainly, I would say the best thing you can do to improve the quality of your writing is put rigid length limits on what you write. And then try to squeeze make it an exercise to squeeze every last ounce out of every word that you have within that length.
Thank you, Paul.
Apparently. Well, because I'm the writer, right? So it's easier just to send it to the writer and have the writer fix it than to understand what I could be doing better.
Okay, we have a question in. Do you have a recommendation on how to measure what content is truly working?
Oh, well, there's so many. And I mean, you've heard other speakers today talk more intelligently about that than I can in terms of looking at engagement metrics, at metrics that lead to actions. I think that the most important thing I can say about metrics is stop using impressions, for one thing. Impressions is a print era metric. We are so far past that. The only reason we use impressions is because they're big numbers and they impress the boss. But they are meaningless in the digital age. Look at engagement metrics. Twitter, for example, has a wonderful metrics screen that's associated with your account. Many people don't even know it's there. They will tell you exactly what content is generating the most retweets, comments, views, and shares. So look at that stuff and say, look at what's working and do more of what's working and do less of what isn't. But I would say focus on the metrics to focus on are engagement metrics. Engagements are commenting, sharing, retweeting, reposting, emailing, if you get access to something like that. Anything in which your reader takes an action, clicking through to a page, downloading something, anything that causes the reader to take an action is very, very good. And those are the most important metrics I look at.
Okay. You made a point in your presentation to ask a question in either LinkedIn or Facebook. So what happens if we do pose a question and no one responds?
Move on. I mean, people are busy. If I post a question on LinkedIn, and I have 6,000 connections on LinkedIn, if I post a connection on LinkedIn and I get 2 responses, that's a pretty good day. I mean, understand people are very busy. And in the early days of the internet, there was this sort of myth that you could put anything out there and sort of crowdsource anything and you would get a response. That's less and less true. Very hard to generate response these days. So I would say if it's not generating a response, A, you can try posting it again. B, you can try tweeting a link to the post. C, you can ask people you work with to comment on it and try to get something started through their connections, right? Because when they comment on it, their connections see it, and that's a possible way to jumpstart it. But you're getting into the realm of manipulation there, and you're not going to get much value out of that.
Okay. 5 or 6 people wanted to know, how much is a subscription to Cosmo these days? No, I'm just kidding.
You can get individual issues online. They're fantastic. Like $3.95 a copy.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.